Be Shadow Gaming. Yeah. Okay, so this is gonna be really weird because the beginning of this audio, like this into the next like 5 minutes, got cut. It got corrupted or whatever. So I gotta re-record it and hope it syncs up with the rest of it. But anyway, let's try to do this. If there's any moments where it's just nothing happening but gameplay, I apologize. Anyway, so this is gonna be the story of the catfish. It's gonna be kind of like a speed run thing where I'm kind of like trying to tell each individual event that happens that contributes to either the catfishery, you see that if that's even a word, or the details of how I felt, stuff I did, etc. Kind of give you perspective. Originally, this was gonna be like an hour and 30 minutes long, and that was if I basically explained literally everything and gave detail between each and every important detail, literally everything. But I didn't want it to be that long, so then I tried to re-record it and to get it down to like 20 minutes. But then I would have been summarizing a lot of stuff, and I didn't feel like it was good enough, so I scrapped that idea too. So I decided to do this one where I'm giving as much all the important details and giving a little bit of like in betweenies in there too. So anyway, without further ado, let's get started. God, my mouth's already tired. So this is about 2 months into me playing Final Fantasy XIV for the first time. Me and Carrie met in the anti-tower dungeon. This is the boss that has the doll at the end. We chatted a lot in the dungeon, really good friends. Well, really good people. Person she was. She messaged me after the dungeon and we became friends. We was on the same server, so it kind of worked out. She invited me to the FC that she was a part of called Charm, which that could be a whole nother story later. And within the FC chat, which is basically kind of like a clan guild thing, we was constantly at each other's throats. Like we was always flirting with each other. Like from beginning, we were just flirting all the time. And she asked me to join up to help her do some quests and vice versa. And at the time, I played a lot of PvP, like a lot of PvP. No one likes PvP in 14, so it's always just me playing. But she came along for it as well, which I assume just to kind of show that she has interest in what I'm playing. Wanted to get to know me, I guess. And doing this, we also started playing the story together, and we played all the way from Stormblood up to the end of yeah, from Heavensward up to the end of Stormblood. So we was literally always playing, and at this point, we basically played every day, literally every day together, talking every day together. Like it was just everything, and we kind of got to know each other a little bit. She was kind of like the hard-boiled, takes no bullshit sort of independent woman, like hard to show emotion, but she has emotions obviously, just doesn't want to show them. So, mind you, we're still flirtatious in the chat. Uh, but anyway, one day she invites me to a link shell. A link shell is basically kind of like a private group chat, and it involved me, her, and her brother. And I got to know her brother a little bit, kind of not too well, but a little bit. And this is when things kind of get weird. So one day, her brother is like, "Hey James, I have a favor." Now me, I'm like James. Like in my head, I'm like James? Question mark. And I'm trying to rationalize why he might have called her James. Like maybe it was a nickname, maybe it's like a joke name, maybe that is her name. And I say this because obviously this guy's name Ashley, and Ashley's a feminine name. So maybe it's kind of a similar thing. I didn't think too much of it, but I did keep it in the back of my head because that is very important information. And she ended up responding to him with a question mark, and they kind of talked for a little bit. But it took her like 5 minutes to respond. But yeah, it took her like 5 minutes to respond, and at this point, I'm kind of just thinking like, that seems hella sketchy. That's just fucking sketchy as shit. But again, we'll leave that in the back of the head and kind of think about it later. The following day, however, she asked me to leave that link shell. And at this point, the video should hopefully kind of sync up with each other. Hopefully. But if it doesn't, it might be like a brief moment of nothing happening and then, yeah. But anyway, yeah, she asked me to leave the link shell. So I leave the link show and she invites me to a new one that she created for literally just herself and I. Her reasoning for that was because she wanted to have that link shell for her brother and her, so they can have their conversations and stuff. And again, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, that's kind of odd that you do this after he, calls you James and stuff. It rung kind of like something's going on here. It rung bells in my head. But again, I was like, well, keep this in the back of my mind. We'll keep it in the back of my mind. This same day, later on, like around like maybe like 11 p.m. type shit, really late at night, she decides to open up to me a bit more. She provided some songs about how I made her feel, and in general how she felt kind of like confused but in love. Basically, she included by telling me her quote unquote real name, small insight of how she was hurt in the past and scared of relationships, and how she tries to push people away that she gets close to because she's afraid of getting hurt potentially again. Looking back at this was kind of all like, I think this was kind of like all like crowd control, like, okay, oh shit, coming up trash, like, oh shit, let's try to break suspicion by building more character. um but at the time I thought of this kind of like, okay, she has a soft spot, she's not extremely like hard boy, she has a soft spot. I respect the opening up. The following day, while we was inside of dailies and stuff, because at this point, I guess you could basically say we're kind of sort of like we're super close at this point, I guess. Because again, you see her, you see me type shit. We're always talking. At this point, she wanted to assure me that because she's very flirty by nature, she wanted to let me know not to think anything of it if she's like flirting with other people and stuff. Like it's nothing serious, right? And again, this is another thing that I put in the back of my mind, like, okay, understood, alright, let's go, okay, okay. Um, anyway, around this time, the leader of the FC and the co-leader, Ash and Lee, they was getting married in the game. This is important for later. Carrie did not like either of these two people. They did not. She did not like them, and was reluctant to go to the wedding. I'm pretty sure she actually didn't. I don't know. But again, these two people, Ash and Lee, become very important later on. Next thing that happened was we met a ton. Well, yeah, the next thing that happened was that we met a ton of people like in different roulettes and stuff, different dailies and weeklies. We met a lot of people, and some of them became friends with mostly her because I don't really talk to people, so mostly just became friends with her, and I was just kind of like they're like, oh hey hi, kind of like that Diane. But basically, we met a lot of people, and this particular day, she had told me about how, well, actually, this particular day we was talking about how like all these people is like they always seem to be like a female, but then they end up being a male, right? And this friend in particular that we had was just like that too. And she told me like, "Yo, can you believe that he's actually a male? Like, bro, he was making himself seem like he was a female, and I just hate that people can't do this. Like, why they gotta be like why do you gotta lie about your gender, who you are, and stuff?" And I was like laughing my ass off. That's kind of funny though. She was like, "I know, right?" And about maybe like I don't know, maybe like 10 minutes later, she asked me, "Hey, what would you say or what would you do if I told you that I was a dude?" Laughing my ass off. And I'm like, well, you see, first off, I'll be highly disappointed and upset. Like, okay, I'll question everything. I'll be like, what the fuck? And yeah, like I'll probably be like, yo, I'm gonna find you and slap you type stuff. I'm just saying. I'll be like, what the fuck? And yeah. And then she was like, LOL, and I basically continued on for like maybe like 3 minutes, and eventually she was like, okay, fans, I get it. Shit gets real when anyone ever calls you by your real name, like your first name. They ever call you by your first name, shit's real. Anywho, um, I want to also add on to this because like prior to all of this, anyway, she had mentioned that she's also bi, right? So looking back on it now, I feel like she said that, like the whole like what if I was a dude? I feel like she said that at that point because it was like I feel like she actually did like me, like started to actually have feelings for me and stuff, and kind of wanted to be something, and maybe probably felt bad for lying, you know, that obviously is a male, but you know. So I felt like maybe at that point she was trying to like, yo, you know, maybe if I say, or maybe if he's okay with me being a guy, we could, you know, we could do stuff, you know, we could, and obviously it wasn't like that, which is why she might have felt a little offensive or a little like, you know, defensive about the whole thing and kind of hurt. Following this incident, she started becoming more and more like, I don't know, like in character, I guess. What I mean is she started being more glam hungry. Ooh, but started being more glam hungry. Glam just means like fashion, like wanting more fashion stuff, fashionable things. And wanting more cute little stuff like minions and mounts and stuff. And the way she chatted via party chats or FC chat even, just in general seemed more like you know how you kind of could guess a gender of somebody just by kind of like how they talk, how they present themselves. It's kind of like, oh, you know, that's probably a girl considering the name and considering how they're talking, the character, everything. You know, you kind of just assume, oh yeah, it's probably a girl, right? And my suspicions wasn't as present as they was, but they were still there. Don't get me wrong, I still had them in the back of my head, like I'm still going to question this stuff at some point, but uh, yeah, they were still there. At this time, we had basically finished Stormblood, and again, as I said before, we literally was doing everything together, like every day, spending all the time together, talking, chilling, whatever. Just literally, you seen one, you seen the other. Standing around AFK, for example, we was together. Like we did everything. Around this time, we ended up having a dynamic of sorts as well. While I was the gatherer, like I go out and gather stuff, and she was the crafter. She'd make the shit. Um, and during this time too, we also started doing two-man stuff, like we go into duo, something that's just supposed to do with like maybe 4 people or 8 people or whatever. We're going to try to duo it. You can see an example of this on the channel of us, like for example the world's first canals, for example. You can see us there. You can also see the chat there too. uh and at the time we was supposed to do that. Not many people did two-man anything because people believe that you needed to have at least 4 people. But Reed was one of the first people to kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say we started it, but we was kind of like some of the first people to kind of like make it more normal to do this. But anyway, we really and doing these two-mans and duos and stuff, we really started bonding more, like really started bonding. Sometime after we started doing all this too, I had bought a house. Mostly not for me, because everyone that knows me, I don't fucking do how fuck that. But I bought a house because she really wanted a house to have, because she wanted to decorate it and stuff. And I was like, yeah, you know me, gotta, you know, I try to do stuff, beep. So here we go. I went on and bought the house for her, and basically she was the one that decorated stuff, and I was the one that had the funny plaques. I also bring in like different things to, you know, put into the house so she can have too. Okay, so about a week after this, nearly the end of March now, her and Ash becomes kind of like friends. They kind of start talking a little bit, and Ash become like friends. In the same boat, me and Lee also started talking a bit, and we became homies as well. Occasionally, us four will all do something together, like just chat or just, you know, do like a roulette or something. Fun times though. Lee and I was very similar in the way that we was goofy and always trying to be entertaining for our significant others, and they were very similar as well. It worked out pretty similarly. Like we had like a really nice little dynamic there. At this time, as well, I was a Mikote, which is basically like a cat person, cat character, and both Ash and Lee was Auras. Or Lee was like the strong, like just strong, the taller one, and she was smaller. Auras are basically dragging people, and Carrie was also an Aura. At this point, Carrie wanted me to be an Aura as well because she wanted me to be tall. Looking back on it, I feel like maybe she wanted it because those two was like that, and she just wanted to kind of be like, you know, basically, basically identical, really. And because obviously she wanted it, I went on and bought a Fantasia and changed myself to be an Aura while she was at work to surprise her, like, hey, hey. She loved it. Following this, we was talking about how she wanted a two-man mount. Two-man mounts at that time was very rare. Like the only ones there was either from the before friend quest, which didn't work for us, and wedding, marriage. So since the only ways we could get it is via obviously before a friend, which didn't work in marriage, we was kind of shit out of luck, right? Well, no, because I'm involved. So uh, obviously, what I ended up doing was I devised a plan to propose. And to propose, I decided that I'll buy the most expensive one because obviously only the best for whoever I'm with, only the best. But I bought the most expensive one, which I think was like $30 or something. Doesn't matter. But I bought that one, and I had to like figure out how to propose to her. So I baited her into showing up for this in like this little location, very beautiful location in my opinion, and proposed to her there while also giving like a proposal speech and everything. She said yes, and we moved onward. About 2 days later, she essentially tells me, "Yo, I really like your proposal." At the time, all she said was, yes, and that was it, because she's not really great with emotions and all that. So, you know, at the time, I was just like, "Damn, that was it." Just like, yes, okay, whatever. But then, obviously, 2 days later, she explained how she really liked it and stuff. But around this time as well, for the marriage, we end up having two new members in the FC join. That being a player named Bun and Waja, who both of these two was also a couple. Lalafels, adorable Lalafels. We didn't talk much to them. Carrie, however, talked pretty often to them and even like hugged them really, really often because of how cute and adorable they was. And they became nice peeps. Again, with me, I wasn't really talking to them, so they didn't really know me, but they knew her somewhat decently. Uh, anyway, we had the marriage and a good number of people showed up. We move on. We got the mount, and this was the beginning of the end. She got the mount, the two-man mount that she wanted. Following the marriage, we started hanging with Ash and Lee a lot more and more and more. In doing so, me and her directly, we started talking less and less. We started doing less things. It's been a long round, it's been a long minute now since we actually did like a duo anything, like a two-man anything. We have literally done basically nothing but sit around and talk all day. Or at least in my case, I just sat around doing absolutely nothing for the entire time. But off track a little bit. Uh, and if I try to do something like by myself, like go off and do like a through or something by myself, I'll get an even colder shoulder, and then I gotta try and cheer her up. At some point, Ash and Carrie end up having a heart to heart, where Ash talks about very, very personal stuff with Carrie that happened to her previously, like in the past and stuff. And basically, how Lee was kind of like her escape, and how Lee was really helping her get better and kind of changed her life, really. Carrie had similar experiences that she also shared. To give you a little bit of backstory, Carrie, quote unquote, had been abused and had a miscarriage by a previous boyfriend, and had also went to jail for robbery and assault, which she was said was because she was with the wrong group of people, like bad group of people. Eventually, after this hard to hard that they had, this was maybe like 2 3 hours of them talking. Mind you, me and Lee is still kind of just here, just chilling, waiting. They finished talking, and yeah, they became very, very closer off of that heart to heart that they had. Oftentimes, throughout these days of us four, I'll be left out of the conversation. The three of them will be having, for whatever reason that may be. Like we had like a group chat for us four, but instead of talking in the group chat, they'll be talking in like the area chat where only those three can see, but I can't see because obviously I'm out there gathering stuff for her so she can make stuff. But I digress. It's something that again I had in the back of my head, like okay. Um, Eventually though, after maybe like 3 weeks of this dynamic happening where nothing's happened, like nothing's going on, we're not playing the game even, we're just talking, you know. I eventually, say something to her about like how I would like to, play the game again and, try to get some duo stuff done and stuff. And she's like, yeah, she apologized and say we'll start doing stuff again. So we did. One time, once. Following this, we did a duo for, I forget his name, Rahanzon or something like that. I don't know. We started to do a duo for him, and we had tried it previously, but we didn't get done. We came close, but we didn't get it done. So we always was like, yo, we'll get this done at some point later on. So we tried that again. After one or two tries, we failed, and she was like, yo, I just don't want to do this. And she basically kind of went back to talking to Ash and Lee. And then I just was like, all right, well, I got off that day, went back to Destiny for a bit. So, this is when stuff goes down. The following day, she, as soon as I get log in, she basically comes up to me. Well, not as soon as I log in, maybe like a little bit later, but she comes up to me and she's like, please don't be mad. Don't leave or quit playing the game. Don't hate me either. But I think we should break up. And me, using the knowledge I already know about her, basically said, nah, it's okay, we'll get through this, reassuring. And she's like very stern on it, like, no, we gotta break up. And, we go back and forth on this for a little bit. And even now, there still was never a reason for why she did it. But later on, Az messages me, because like we stopped talking for a bit. Az messages me asking what's happening between you and Carrie. I tell her what Carrie said, and she decides that she's gonna go talk to Carrie. After talking to Carrie, Ash comes back to me, basically saying, yo, Carrie's confused. I can tell you that she still loves you, and yada yada yada. So, don't give up on it, keep trying. So I continue to try and mend the situation, right? I keep on trying. Eventually, I get, tired of trying this shit, because at this point, it's been like, what, maybe 4 or 5 days now? And I'm not about to go through this, right? So, it's been 4 or 5 days, and I was like, look, if you really don't want us to fix this or whatever, then just leave our chat, and that'll be more than enough for me to understand that, okay, you're done, right? Without even a second thought, she dipped from the chat, and at that point I was like, okay, well. So after this happened, I was like, all right, well, I left the FC, because obviously being an FC, she's in there, it would kind of remind me of her. So I left the FC and went to go sit on my little, I have like a little hidey spot where basically no one can get to unless you really try to get to it. No one can find you either, no one can see you. Well, you can see me, but getting up there is the hard part. And I went to go sit there to be alone, right? People messaged me after I left, because obviously people care, people want to know what's up, and obviously I didn't reply to any of them. However, one person, Roger, if you remember from before, who I don't really know, he showed up, found me in the world to ask me what's up. Like, he literally, like, investigated gadget type shit. Like, he literally just came to find out what's going on. And I respect that. Because of how, and because of like how much effort it would have took to even find me in the first place, I went on humored with him, and I told him what's going on. I told him like basically the entire story that I told you guys here, like from beginning to end. I don't think I include like the Ash and Lee stuff, but basically I told him what was going on and everything, entire story. And he basically was assuring me that everything would be okay. He started telling me how him and Bun got together and how their dynamic was, and how it was very similar to him and how me and Carrie had it. And basically was saying it's gonna be okay, but he did feel that I got mistreated by how she was treating me, right? Which, understandably so. I did also kind of leave out some parts about some of the mistreatments here, but we include the important things. Anyway, at that point I was like, because I know how she is with like emotions and stuff, and that she was just bad at showing them, which obviously is no excuse. And I had another friend who was curious about what's going on as well, and she ended up talking to me, and she came to the same conclusion that you got mistreated. It's a good thing. It's a good thing this happened. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. Now, following this, maybe a week or two later, I took a break from the game, and a number of things happened within this break regarding the carry that came out. But that's not really important to what my situation here is. That's just some other stuff that I might go into detail with later. But at some point during all this, Carrie started seeing another person. Ina, or Ina, whatever her name is. Ina was the girl that we met some time ago. She was a super nice person. However, they basically got together, like seeing each other. Carrie ended up messaging me during like my break essentially, and basically told me about Ina, how they got together and stuff, and that sure enough, guess what? Ina's a guy. And she felt very like betrayed and hurt by that, and she came to me, kind of, I guess, hoping for sympathy, and I'm just like, I don't care. Like, I didn't say that. I was just like, well, that's kind of sorry to hear, but I left it at that. I didn't say anything else after that point. Sometime later, Bun, Roger's girlfriend, found out some stuff about Carrie. Found out Carrie's real name was James, which obviously I had that in the back of my head already, and that he knew a lot of people on the server of Midgar, and everyone thought that he was also female. So, I mean, at least it wasn't just me. I forget how she found out this, but she mentioned that Ash had found out because Carrie and them was talking, and I guess Carrie wanted to tell Ash who he really was, and when he did that, Ash was just like, no, 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 and well, yeah, because at this point, literally everyone's finding out, yo, this chick named Carrie is actually a dude. I guess he ended up leaving the server. He left the server and the data center in general. He's now on a new one, which I won't disclose. Um, that is basically the story of how I got catfish in a nutshell. I forgot to mention like bits and pieces. Like I also bought her sub at one point because, well, she didn't have the money to because her bank or something was closing or something. I don't even know. Something like that. Something about her bank, but well, his bank. We already know it's a dude now, so his bank. Something about his bank or something, and I don't know. Some of the mistreatments included like her getting mad at me about him getting mad at me about basically trying to be helpful to another friend, or him yelling at me because I was talking to other people, like being more friendly to people and stuff, actually trying to be talkative instead of being quiet all the time. Just little stuff like that, kind of like verbal abuse, I guess. Little stuff like that, but it's not really. At least I didn't deem this important to the story, which is what I'm saying it now. But it was just little things like that, or like making me feel guilty because uh, making me feel guilty because um, I did like a fate or a public event without her, or because I got this item and she didn't, or he didn't. It's just all that. But yeah, that's basically the tale of how I got catfished. Um, this may still end up being kind of long. Well, at this point, I think it's like 30 minutes long. But for the most part, this is kind of like in order of sequence of events of how it all happened from beginning to end, and just where we are now. It still might be kind of clunky in terms of like presentation goes, but I assure you, I think I greatly prefer me saying it this way than my previous two ways. Because again, the first one would have been like an hour plus, and then the second one I feel like would have missed some important details out. This way, at least I feel like I got like majority of the story across. So yeah, uh, this is the best I could do without it being any longer, while also still getting much detail. Moral of the story: don't trust people too easily. If you have a gut feeling about something, trust your gut, or at least confront it head on first. And if you're ever trying to like deal like a relationship or something, long distance or otherwise, give it at least 4 to 5 months before you really start like talking to people. Before you really start going for it, give it at least 4 to 5 months before you really start getting there. It's okay to get close to someone, but don't get into anything too soon. Or hey, you never know, you might end up dating a dude like I did. But yeah, that's the story. I hope you guys enjoyed. By all means, like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. This Friday coming up will be another story vid, but this will be kind of like more like an uplifting one. It'd be kind of with me talking about how I basically came online, like online gaming, got into it. But yeah, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that stuff. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye. God, my mouth, my fucking voice is killing me.